When shooting video, it's easy to get caught up with who's actually in front of the camera instead of how good your picture looks. In this segment, we'll talk about how lighting can affect your production. First, let's talk briefly about the different kinds of light you'll encounter when shooting.
There are many of them. We'll focus on the two that are most common. The first are freestanding studio and on-camera lights. We'll look at how to use them and where to place them. The other is how to use existing lighting that is in a space that you might be shooting in. When you go out to do a shoot in places like a classroom or an office, you'll encounter spaces with fluorescent lighting. There are two problems with these lights. The first is white balance, which we don't cover in this video. The second, however, is the placement of these lights. Most times when we encounter fluorescent lights, they're attached to a ceiling in a grid like this one. This works fine when you need to fill a room with even light, but your camera doesn't always see it in that way. Take a look at this person being interviewed in their office. Sure, the video is lit enough, but when you take a closer look at their face, you'll notice shadows forming. Here, here, and here. Making the person's eyes, nose, and chin appear as if they're sinking into their faces. So how do you keep your interviewee from resembling a zombie? The first is bringing extra lighting to every shoot you go to. These can be small lights that attach to your camera, or freestanding studio lights. Add the light to that office interview, and boom, instant improvement. Now, let's talk about another type of already existing light, the sun. Let's look at a few tips to keep in mind when shooting outdoors.
First, try and take into account the position of the sun when you shoot outside.
As you know, the sun moves from one side of the sky to the other each day. Just like we talked about in the portion of this video which dealt with fluorescent lighting, lights that are overhead tend to create shadows on people's faces. The sun, however, because it creates a much more intense light, can create even harsher shadows on a person's face if you shoot them when the sun is directly overhead, such as early in the afternoon. So, if you have the option, try and move your talent around to see the best angle at which to shoot them. Usually, we try to shoot them at an angle to the sun, so that we can get a balanced lighting on the face.
But since we won't always get to shoot when the sun is at the right angle, the alternatives could be to use a reflector.
A reflector will bounce light off a reflective surface to help even out the light. There are all kinds of reflectors, but you can create a cheap one with a large sheet of white paper or a large white poster board. Another cheap option, aluminum foil.
Okay, now to freestanding studio lights. Got some of these, and you're in luck. We're going to give you a primer on using these lights with a single subject. First, we're going to show you what's called the basic 3-point light setup for filming. Just about every film or television show that you've watched uses this setup as its basis.
Here's what we want to get at the end. A smooth, even light on the face and a separation between the subject and the background.
To get this, we use 3 lights. The main one, the key light, is used to light the subject's face.
This light needs to be at a 45-degree angle from the camera and the subject, and needs to be slightly higher than eye level. Using the key light alone is not enough, however, because it tends to cast harsh shadows on the opposite side of the talent's face. We get rid of those shadows by using a fill light, which does just like it's called. It fills in the shadows on the face. The fill light should be placed near the camera or on the opposite side as the key light, and either at or slightly below eye level. The last light to use is the backlight. This light is used to help separate the subject from the background. Place it behind the subject and out of the camera's frame. Once you got this setup down, experiment. You can get lots of different results when you move your lights around. And that does it for our lighting segment. Hope you learned a lot. We'll go out and make some really good looking video. At Roosevelt High School in Washington, D.C., I'm David Parker.